Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words. If you're looking for legacy, you're in the right place. I got some legacy content for you here. So this is the deck I'm going to be playing today. As you can see, it's mostly a standard black-red Reanimator shell, but there is conspicuously something very different going on here. So the normal Reanimator deck is you entomb or you Faithless Looting or you unmask yourself to put a big creature, usually Griselbrand, into your graveyard and then reanimate it with Exhume, Reanimate, or some other spells that aren't actually in this list. Now where this list differs is it has this package here. So we have Shallow Grave and Emrakul the Aeon's Torn. Emrakul the Aeon's Torn normally is something that you don't want to put in your graveyard as a Reanimator player. You don't want to shuffle your graveyard into your library. But Shallow Grave is an instant. And what Shallow Grave does is it allows you to put the top creature card of your graveyard onto the battlefield and it gains haste. And then you sacrifice at end of turn. So what this means is if you put an Emrakul in your graveyard, in response to the trigger to shuffle it in, you can Shallow Grave it back and then bash. So this is obviously a slightly weaker reanimation spell in some regards. But what it does do better is it allows you to reanimate a Griselbrand and then attack. So you can get effectively another 7 cards on that turn. So what we're hoping to do with that is cast Tendrils of Agony or Children of Corliss to then draw more cards. So the idea is that we're trying to combo off and get a storm kill. So on the turn that we go off with the Griselbrand, we might be able to make another hasty threat with the Shallow Grave and just go in. So we have the normal disruption of Masks and Griefs. But this is where the deck is differing. Now the reason I like this is it's slightly faster, and who doesn't love tin fins really? So this is like the core package of tin fins, is this sort of stuff here with the storm finish as well. So you sometimes see Reanimator decks with just the Tendrils and the Children, but I've sort of gone a step further and added in some Shallow Graves and the Emrakul package. As for the sideboard, what are we looking at here? If you need to kill creatures, things like Containment Priest for example, we have Swords to Plowshares. If we need to kill artifacts and enchantments, like ley lines and so on and so forth, we have Forced Serenity and 2 Wear Tears. If we have a graveyard deck, we can bring in the Coffin Purge. Silence can also work similarly in the mirror, where you can make your opponent delay a turn. So you can stop them after they've played a Griselbrand, for example, where the Griselbrand is being reanimated on the stack. You can cast a Silence, so they won't be able to do anything that turn, and then you can possibly Archon of Cruelty to get rid of their Griselbrand or just combo them all out on that turn. Then we have these sneak attacks, which allow us to play a game that doesn't involve our graveyard. Now, because we're a Shallow Grave deck, all of our reanimation targets are quite nice with sneak attacks. So obviously, Griselbrand and Emrakul are the classic sneak attack targets. But then Archon of Cruelty, if you sneak attack this in, your opponent's going to lose 2 creatures, 2 cards from their hand, and you're going to draw 2 cards, as well as a big drain life effect. So this is actually quite a nice one to sneak attack in, even though, you know, it's not as good as an Emrakul, but we're not playing the full Emrakul. We still need some things that are just good to reanimate. So we've got these Archons of Cruelty. Now, the downside of this list is that we're not running Animate Deads as well. So we've got slightly less reliable ways of getting a creature to stick in. So our creatures have to have a bigger impact, hence the creatures we've chosen. It also means that we're not running the big angel that can blank whole decks, which is certainly a choice. I'm not sure how it's going to work out, but this deck is definitely going to be a lot more fun than traditional Reanimator, which, as someone who's making content, I think that's what the audience wants. Anyway, I'm going to fire this into a league, so let's see what happens. So here we are in round 1, and this is my opening hand. I'm on the draw, but I don't think this hand does enough. I think we need to be able to put this card in the graveyard. So if we could swap one of these out for a Faithless Looting, that'd be great. But I think we can mulligan. This deck mulligans very effectively because we have big draw 7 effects. So this hand can entomb on turn 1 and reanimate on turn 2 with protection. This seems fine, so I'm going to keep this hand. We don't have access to any red mana, so I'm going to bottom the Faithless Looting. A Volcanic Island from our opponent into a Dragon's Rage Channeler. This is going to be Delver. There's a couple of different Delver builds at the moment. There's sort of the standard build with Delver, and then there's the one without, which doesn't have a Delver, but has a Ledger Shredder instead. So they're going to see the top card of my library. I suspect they have a counter spell of some description due to the fact that they Dragon's Rage Channelers. They left on top, so it means they know what they have, and it's probably something good. And in the dark, you probably just want to cast back something, black card from my hand. I think if we exile the, I think we have 2 Shadow Graves, so this is the correct one, rather than trying to conceal information. And we might be able to tendrils them off here. So what have we got here? So we got Force of Will. That's the only thing we have to worry about. So if we get rid of the Force of Will, we can play this. And I think we will play it now in case the top card of the library is a Daze. I think the best option to get is almost always Griselbrand. So that's what we're going to be getting here. They shouldn't have any graveyard hate in the main deck, so we should just be able to carry on here. So this turn they're going to make a Delver of Secrets. They're going to Lightning Bolt in the upkeep so they can scry. Sure, that's a fine play. Also reduces the amount of cards I can draw off of the Griselbrand potentially. I assume it's going to be the Delver of Secrets. They have 2 cards in hand now. If it's a Force of Will, that's unfortunate for me. It's not the end of the world. If I draw another land the turn after, I can Shadowgrave and probably try and combo with the Tendrils, because there will be Hellbent if it is a Force of Will. Instead, we just get to see what we're up against here. We will exile the Shadowgrave, because I don't think we'll need that, because we're going to reanimate. So we have an Expressive Iteration and a Murktide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the Expressive Iteration can find them answers. The Murktide Regent can actually tangle with the Griselbrand in a meaningful way, perhaps. So I think we might be best off taking the Murktide, since the answers they're going to have are going to be, the only answer they're going to have is going to be multiple bolts, or it's going to be the Brazen Borrower they have in the main deck. So we can get rid of this Murktide Regent. And we're going to add black, and we're going to cast this. We're going to target Griselbrand. We can't draw this turn because, well, we don't have enough life for this. But what we can do is we can block the Dragon's Rage Channeler, because it has to attack this turn. And they don't have the Murktide to remove the card, so I'm going to get 7 life this turn. And take 3, so I'm going to net 4 life on their attack, which they're probably not happy about. So they have a Ponder. So they can't ponder into double bolt, so this, the only thing that they can have is Unholy Heat. But I have to block here in case they find the Lightning Bolt. The Unholy Heats are not standard in Delver deck lists, but they are becoming more common. They spent a little while on that Ponder. They shuffled their library though. Okay. That's what a Griselbrand does. It's basically the best creature. Okay, so the Delver deck's graveyard hate tends to be things like Surgical Extraction and just counter spells, which means things like Silence is useful here. Coffin Purge not so much. The sneak attacks give me a way that ignores the graveyard entirely. And we have potentially Swords to Plowshares, if that's a thing we require. Now there is an option that they might have a Grafdigger's Cage, which is unlikely but could happen. So what I think this means is we probably want to be, so our discard is pretty good anyway. We want some combination of these. I don't think we want them all because we don't want to dilute our plan. I think we're already doing quite well in this matchup anyway. So the discard effects are good here. The Children of Corliss Tendrils of Agony plan. I don't think we're going to have to win that quickly necessarily, so I don't know if we're going to need these. I think we might be better off making these into a couple of sneak attacks, perhaps. I would quite like a silence, if we can fit one in. So we're probably looking at trimming things. We can't really mess with any of our discard or our package here. I think we're probably looking at trimming a Reanimate. Is that the right? That will trim a Shallow Grave for the silence, and then we'll put these back, and then we'll see how this goes and see if we see any particular things like Grafdigger's Caves that is a possibility. I think this is fine. There is an option for not running the silence and just trying to force through sneak attacks instead. But these require more mana, so I think we'll try the silence out. This hand has multiple forms of interaction. It has both of these interactions. It has a reanimation spell for a Griselbrand, and it has Entomb and Faithless Looting. We're going to keep this hand. The question now is, what do we keep? We have to keep a Polluted Delta. I don't think we can keep the Lotus Petal. I think that has to go back because we need the interaction, which means we're probably looking at putting back the Faithless Looting, and we're hoping to draw into mana sources. We have Dark Rituals, we have Lotus Petals, and we have 14 lands total. So we've got 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 cards that we can draw here that give us the mana to do something quite broken. Sure. Okay, so we now have an Archon of Cruelty. We still need additional mana sources, so I'm going to play this Polluted Delta. The question is, do we grief or unmask them? Because we have the Entomb, I think we probably want to keep hold of the yes, I think we don't need to unmask ourselves, so we're going to we don't need to cast the grief yet. What we can do is we can try and Entomb in their turn and see how that pans out, because if it doesn't go well, then we might have to unmask ourselves. We can obviously try and punch through a counter wall, but I think it's more important to get... Okay, so we just got a lightning bolt here. Sure. I'm also quite cold to Wasteland here, so I want to be careful when I pop this. I'm going to be taking 1 damage this turn, and then a 2nd damage from my Polluted Delta. So the options here is, if we get a bad lands, we can have Faithless Looting as a good draw available to us. If we take a swamp, we can't get Wastelanded. Considering the texture of our hand at the moment and we need another mana source, I think we're probably going to take the swamp. Okay, so this resolved, which means they're probably aiming to Surgical Extract this card. So we'll try the Griselbrand. If they have a Surgical Extraction, I imagine it to get fired off soonish. Again, we don't have any plays here, unfortunately. We need an additional mana source. If we'd have kept the Lotus Petal, we could have had the mana source, but then we would have had to pitch something else. Perhaps it was right to put back one of these black cards, so I'm more likely to draw any black card than I am a mana source. But not by much, considering the amount of mana sources in the deck. Okay, so there's a Surgical Extraction. Sure. I don't have any available plays here. So we can't win with the Griselbrand, but we still have the Archon of Cruelty, which is very good against these decks that want to deploy 1 or 2 threats. If I can give this one haste as well, I can take up 2 threats in 1 turn cycle, as well as drawing myself cards and ruining the rest of their resources. I have no available plays this turn, so I'm just going to pass the turn cycle. Is this going to be a Murktide Regent? No, it's going to be a Predict. That's a lot better for me than Murktide Regent because I don't really want to get hit by a massive guy, which reduces the amount of turns I have to draw into a land. We also have Reanimate as a draw. Well, we did have Reanimate as a draw before, but obviously that's gone by the wayside now. Sure, another Lightning Bolt. So if we grief pitching grief, we can unmask our Archon of Cruelty this way. So we need to draw another card still. I think we're just not going to hit any mana sources this game, and it's probably just going to see us down. But this creature is not very big yet. They do not have Delirium, so we're not in desperate times just yet. But I suspect a Murktide Regent should be hitting the board any time now. A Ponder, which means they don't have the Regent in hand. They seem to be thinking about the order they're putting their cards on. So they put one card on top of their library, but they're still waiting to put the other two on before they draw off the Ponder, which suggests to me that they are keeping the pile, but they're just working out which card they need when. Okay, so they have an additional threat, which is what they needed. You have 3 cards in hand. Sneak attack is not particularly useful. Almost at the part where I'm going to be discarding and drawing, discarding end of turn. Expressive iteration, so they're digging to more potential answers here. This Mishra's Ball will dramatically increases the clock. Wow, they've actually increased the clock just before then, haven't they? But they have 4 cards in hand and 6 power on the board, so I have to draw a mana source this turn. And I don't get the option of trying to pave the way here, unfortunately. So now we're going to have a 5th card in hand. So we have a Reanimate. We cannot reanimate our guy. We cannot do anything here. We have to concede the game and go to game 3. Okay, it didn't seem to have anything else other than the things we knew about, and the sneak attacks felt a little bit slow, if I'm being honest here. But I don't think they're any worse than the things we had. The only options here is we could board in some Swords to Plowshares to give ourselves more time instead of worrying about sneak attack, which is certainly an option. But I think we'll do that just to hedge it a little bit. But I think we want to go faster this time, so it's better to have lower mana cost spells because we're on the play this time, so we might just be able to turn 1. This is my opening hand on the play. As you can see, it has no mana sources, so we have to mulligan it. This is my next hand, which also doesn't have any ways of putting creature cards into the graveyard. And it doesn't even have red mana apart from the Lotus Petal if I wanted to Faithless Looting and hope to draw it. So I have to mulligan this hand as well. This hand has many different things in it. So I think I will keep this. By many different things, it has one thing. But that one thing is the exact thing I want. So we'll keep this. We will bottom this land because we do not need an additional land. And I do not think we need the Lotus Petal. The problem with the Griselbrand in hand is it's nice to have a black card to pitch, whereas this doesn't play around surgical. So this will get me if I put this back, then I don't have any option of using discard. If I put this back and keep this, it means I can get surgically extracted, but this Lotus Petal wasn't doing anything anyway. So I think the Lotus Petal is the correct line here, so I can draw an unmask to make the line work a bit more smoothly. We're going to play out a basic swamp, which can't be wastelanded, and we're going to pass the turn. If they crack their fetch land, I will use the swamp, but there's no need to use it right now. I don't want to get caught by a surgical extraction, so I'm not actually going to entomb this turn. They haven't presented me a threat, so I don't have to worry about my life total this turn, and they haven't done any sculpting either. So this is definitely not the sort of hand that I really want. Very weak to surgical extraction here. I'm almost tempted to get the Archon of Cruelty instead, purely so that I don't lose these cards, which I might need to use for Grief and Unmask. Grafdigger's Cage. What is my out to Grafdigger's Cage? I don't believe we left in any of the things we needed to destroy the Grafdigger's Cage, which is a bit unfortunate. This is an interesting one now. So they've kept hate, but not any pieces. I'm not really inclined to entomb at the moment. Okay, so our plan appears to be casting Dark Rituals until we can play this Archon of Cruelty. Or the Griselbrand. We'll see which happens first. We're also in the unfortunate position of being able to discard. So we have to worry about discarding cutscenes. So I might use an entomb to thin the deck out here. We also have the opportunity here to cast Griefs, which are a much more realistic spell to cast with a deck that's not looking to actually play these big spells. So this turn I think we will get a Badlands, and we're going to activate this and cast this. So we have two lands, which are two of the things we want. Now both of these cards are dead. These cards are pretty much dead, but if they get Surgical Extraction, I'm going to have less ways of winning the game. So we're going to pitch the Entomb and the Exhume. We're going to play another land. We're getting closer. We want to be able to hardcast a Grief next turn. Obviously, they are a wasteland deck, which might prove difficult to keep 4 mana up because I have a lot of non-basics. I think I have 2 swamps and 2 of each of my non-basics. There's the wasteland. There's my Badlands. Now the Drone's Raid Channeler gets to attack for 3. So we have an unmasked, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there is potential this turn for a Murktide Regent. So I think we have to cast this, exiling a Griselbrand. What do they have here? So they have a Force of Will I have to worry about, and a Flusterstorm, and a Brazen Borrower, which is hopefully not going to be so good against me. I think we take the Force of Will in the hopes that we can draw a land and a Grief at some point and get rid of the Flusterstorm before we try and cast any Dark Rituals. I was surprised to see the Grafdigger's Cage, to be honest, especially after the second game where they definitely had Lightning Bolts in alongside the Surgical Extractions. I thought they'd probably lean on that. Like most Delver lists tend to run about 2 to 3 surgicals in the board. Okay. Okay, I don't have a Murktide Regent. If I play this out, I don't think there's any purpose in playing this card out, so I think we have to pass. We don't want to expose it to Wasteland, and we're looking to cast a 4-drop, and we need at least 2 more cards before we have enough mana to cast one of these. I suspect this game is very well on the way to being over. Well, that was a very good turn. In case you weren't sure what was going on, they Mystic Sanctuaries, and in response predicted, because they could see what was using predict. They can basically just draw cards off of it using the channeler because they know what the top card of the library is. So they got a Force of Will in their hand, and they have a lot more cards in their hand in total now. So we're looking pretty much dead, which is unfortunate. I had to mulligan so deep this game, especially when they had the cage, which I was not expecting in game 3. Okay, so we can't do anything here. I seem to have also drawn all of my fatties and none of the Faithless Looting. Well, I drew one Faithless Looting earlier, but which I could be flashing back now, but I don't want to expose myself to Wasteland, which might be wrong, but let's see. So we have an Unmask, and they have 6 damage on board if this flips, which seems likely. Let's unmask them with this. I think we just concede here. I also didn't want to crack 2 fetches because that dramatically changes the clock. But there we go. That is a loss. So we're into round 2 and we lost a die roll. Not ideal. So this opening hand doesn't put any fatties anywhere, so we have to mulligan it. This opening hand is a little bit shy of mana, which got us last time, unfortunately. But I think, given we have 4 Reanimate and a whole bunch of mana sources, I think we keep this one. And I think it's an easy ship to put the Archon of Cruelty back. My opponent is on the play, so I get to see and have some sort of inkling of what sort of deck they are and whether I need to fire these off or not. So this opening suggests to me that they're playing a prison deck. So I think the first thing to do here is I think if we Grief pitching... Oh no, if we unmask pitching Grief, that's better, I think. We want to stop any sort of... Oh, okay, no, this is not what I thought it was. This is the mono-red Ruby Storm deck. So they have draw engines, they're slow here, and they have Burning Wish, which is the payoff card. They have a Lotus Petal, which they're probably going to have to burn if they want to cast any of these spells. I think the correct pick here is the Burning Wish, but I could be mistaken. I'll play out my Swamp. I think my play for this turn is going to involve entombing for Griselbrand, and then next turn drawing a whole load of cards and trying to make them discard their hand. Sure. It doesn't look like they can go off. Black, we will entomb. We will put Griselbrand into my graveyard. We will untap. Kranus. So we will draw 7 cards first in case we can make lethal damage this turn. So this is very good. So we can cast this. We kind of get to do the thing now, so we will draw another 7 cards. We can cast by pitching a Shadow Grave, is fine. So what do we have here? Past in Flames. So we probably take the Wish here. We cast this. Touch white. We cast this. We sacrifice this. And we get a load of mana, so we can keep drawing more cards. We have to be careful not to draw all of the cards. Okay, yeah. So they see the writing on the wall, so I get to basically put in an Archon of Cruelty and finish them, or I can probably keep going from that point on. So that's what the hand's trying to do. Now, what do the Ruby Storm decks play in their sideboard? I believe the main thing we're looking out for here is bounce spells, which doesn't feel like it's going to be particularly useful against me anyway, if I'm drawing a load of cards and having come into play effects. So I think the Silence is going to be good because it can break up their combo. And then I also think the Wear Tear can blow up a Burgie. But I think we need to keep the Tendrils Children of Corliss plan in, because I think that's just too good here. Which means I don't actually think the Emrakul plan is great, because we're not going to go long enough that they're going to have enough permanents to sacrifice. So I think we can probably cut that for the Silence. And then we're basically looking at whether or not we keep these. We want this Wear Tear in. I think the plan is just going to be discard spells and go faster. And I think that's going to be fine. The Coffin Purge actually is probably alright here. We can probably trim. What do we trim here? It's always tricky to know. We can't trim any discard effects because they're really good. The Entombs, we probably trim the worst of our reanimation effects, which is probably the Exhume at this point. Although you could argue that we should trim Faithless Looting, so we just have more hits for our combo in our opening hand, so we can go faster, which I like. I think I'm going to go with this. So this is my opening hand. It's an interesting one. What I can do with this is I can, if I have a second black card, I can vote this and then put it into play on turn 1. However, I don't have a second black card. I've got a lot of lands which aren't going to be very useful, and I'm on the draw. So I think we have to mulligan this one. This hand doesn't have any mana, so we cannot keep it. This hand has the Silence in, which is nice. It doesn't have a lot of ways of keeping, of winning the game, unfortunately. So if we keep this, so we need to keep this, the scrub land. So we can bottom a land. We need 2 mana sources for what we're doing. So we probably have to bin one of the reanimation spells. And I think it probably has to be the more expensive one. We want to keep this in hand in case we draw a Faithless Looting. So I think we get rid of the Exhume. And then we say done. Okay, so this build has ley lines, which is not what I was expecting. None of the lists I briefly looked at when I was sideboarding had any ley lines in, so that's awkward. But we know for game 3 at least. So we can play the scrub land. we have the ability to stop them mid-combo. I think we still play this as well. We could always end up in a weird situation where we use their own Bergie, if it ends up in the graveyard, via Lion's Eye Diamond, to reanimate that, and then try and use our own spells to power something else out, which is slightly nonsensical, but it could work. Ruby Medallion. Okay, so this is the full-on Ruby Medallion one rather than the Epic Gamble, which I thought it might have been. Okay, sure. So I have slightly more information now, which means game 3 should be better. So what we're doing here is we're waiting for the payoff card, which is probably going to be a Burning Wish, and then we cast Silence here. So we both just sort of had our entire hands somewhat ruined. So they get to choose a card, so they can work. So they get the information because I have to cast a Silence before in case they were going to make a load of goblins. So basically, what I've done is made it so they have to get some sort of card advantage spell or something and rebuild. So they've got the Past in Flames. But they're going to need more mana before they can do this. Sure. Meanwhile, I have to try and assemble something that can win a game here, which is going to involve a Grief probably, and then use that as a bridging gap to playing a big fatty, which could happen but seems unlikely. I think we're probably just going to be trying to draw Griefs and beat down with them. Okay, so they are looking for a land here. They did not find a land. So their deck is not firing particularly well. Although I've had a sideboard card that stopped them just as they've had a sideboard card. Oh my. I do love drawing all of these fatties, don't I? Not much we can do about this. Thanks, Jim. So this is looking like a deck that I definitely want the Serenities against. They should just be able to combo me out now. So let's see what mana they've got. They've got 2 mana here, and all their spells are cheaper. Sure, Storm 6. So they can just what they're doing here. They don't actually have a payoff as of yet that I can see. So they've got a lot of ways of drawing cards, so let's have a look here. The Valakut Awakening can give them more looks at a payoff card like a Burning Wish or a regular Wish. Sure. The Bergie makes it very hard to fizzle mana-wise. As you can see, they've got a lot of mana. Mana's not the gate here. It's whether or not they can find the payoff spell. So another Jessica's Will is a good way of trying to find one. They're not doing a great job of finding one at present. If they find a second Bergie as well, then they're also away because they can play it on the reverse side, which lets them pitch cards to draw more cards effectively. So I have 3 cards in hand. One of them has to be a payoff. Or something to keep them going. Okay, so they're making more mana, which suggests that they do have a ways of carrying going. Sure, so they found the Burning Wish. And Storm is 15 now. Okay, so they've gone for Inspired Tinkering. Interesting. So it looks like they're going for a Grape Shot line rather than a Grape Shot line. Feels like they should have the resources to find it. You know, there's obviously still very slim percentage chances where it doesn't work out for them, but it's not affecting my clock, so I might as well just let them keep going until they find it. They get to do it all over again with the old Inspired Tinkering, which is a really interesting addition to the deck. We have the Valak Awakenings. They're spinning the wheel again to try and find what they're looking for. So they've only got 24 cards left in their decks. They got bonus round. Okay, so all they need to do is find a Burning Wish or a main deck Grape Shot. Essentially what's happening here is every spell they cast is doubled. So they should be able to draw almost their entire deck at this point. Again, there are very small chances that they somehow whiff, but it seems incredibly unlikely here. They're still going. We're just watching them casting a lot of spells. They have very, very lethal Storm, so it's clearly just a case of them finding pieces. I've said already. It's not really much more I can say. I can start thinking about how I'm going to be sideboarding in the last game. So I think we're going to want the Serenities in because they commit not only the ley line, but they have Ruby Medallions that they want to commit to the board. And sometimes they'll be playing them out, not on the turn they're comboing, so I might be able to hoover them up. Wear Tear is probably also a good shout because I don't want to get locked out. I think this matchup is too slow for the sneak attacks, so I probably don't want those. My opponent has 12 cards left in their library. If the bottom card is the one they need, then that will be alright for us, I guess. They might accidentally draw past it. Okay, so we have a Burning Wish, and we're going to have a Grape Shot. And the Grape Shot's going to get pointed at my head. We're going to concede. Okay, so we need our Serenities and we need our Wear Tears, which does mean we're in a little pickle because obviously our discard effects are very nice as well at punching a hole. So I think we probably just board out these things that try and find us the things we're looking for. We probably can't board them all out, can we? I think we probably have to shave on some of our reanimation spells. So I think we shave on an Exhume. We don't want the... I think the Coffin Purge is fine. I don't think it's where we want to be here. It's not like we can just hit one card. Like hitting the Past in Flames is all right, but I don't think it's going to be the be-all and end-all. Which means you can probably board out an Entomb. Now, what else do we want here? I think the Exhumes are just the worst of the reanimation spells here. We just need to go hard and fast, really. Dark Ritual is going to be essential for powering out turn ones. I think we might just be trimming another Faithless Looting. Okay. I don't really play Reanimator, so I've probably done this wrong. especially since this is a bit of an unusual build anyway. But let's go for it. We might just be able to turn 1 them and it doesn't matter too much anyway. So what does this hand do? This has a discard spell and then nothing else. So I don't think we can keep this. What does this hand do? It doesn't have any mana. I think we can't keep this. What does this hand do? It has a discard. It has the mana to cast. So I can turn 1 Griselbrand if they don't have Leyline. If they do have Leyline, then I can mess with their hand slightly. I will keep this. So what are we going to do? We're going to put back... We don't have to worry about our mana in this one, so we can put one of those back. We need another black card, actually, don't we? I think we put the... Badlands back here, just so we can turn 1 if they don't have a Leyline. Looks like they're mulliganing to a Leyline, but I could be mistaken. They've gone to 4 now. Okay, so they are just mulliganing to Oblivion for a Leyline here. Which means it's going to take them a long time to rebuild, so I will have time to draw, even if they didn't have the Leyline. Okay, so start with the Leyline in play. Sure. I think they are just better off just trying to keep a fast hand, personally, but... Oh, have I just passed through my whole turn by accident? Okay, cool, I have, yes, that's good. It's not really what we wanted there. Not as if I actually have a play for turn 2 here anyway. Okay. So we'll play this out. I don't think we need to unmask anything just yet. They've only got 2 cards in hand. They need more resources than that to go off. So I think we'll wait a turn on this. So we might have different cards we might want to pitch. We just have maximum information. If I just draw straight lands all the way to 4, then I'll be a little bit annoyed. Because it means I would have... I should have just played out the land on turn 1 instead of passing my turn like an idiot. But I'm not particularly used to... Okay, this is interesting. What are they going for here? If they're going for a spell that gives them kind of... They're going for a Rite of Flame. That's interesting to me. I'm quite new to Magic Online. I've been playing Magic for a long time, but I still occasionally pass through turns and do very annoying things like that. What's the plan here? I think we probably just are going to end up on the old Grief Beatdown, aren't we? So I think we... 3 mana. They're going to need more mana than that to go off, I think. I think we still wait 1 more turn. I believe there are Dark Rituals in my deck somewhere, but I can't quite tell you where. Also, I have the Scrubland up and they've already seen the Silence, which is only a singleton, but it means they're going to be playing around it. Okay, so they're just amassing mana here. They might be shy of a payoff. Okay, so we have another unmask here. So I think the plan here is to unmask them. And we have to choose which of our cards. We want the Grief because we're going to use that to win the game with, I think. We are multiple stages away from being able to do any of this, I think. So I think, just in case we hit a Bergie or something, I think it's best to get rid of the Griselbrand, and if it's really bad, we can then unmask as well. So we have a Past in Flames and a Rite of Flame. I think if we get rid of the Rite of Flame here, then they're stuck with just this 4 mana card in their hand. I think that's the correct option here. It stops them being able to use that spell twice in 1 turn. So the plan now is for me to draw a land next turn. So we're not cracking because we don't want the marginal thinning, because we want to hit a land. Okay, so this doesn't do anything. So I think we can, if we cast this, get rid of the Shadowgrave. Okay, so we have a bonus round and the Past in Flames. I think we get rid of the bonus round rather than making the Past in Flames 1 more mana. I think that's better. It's one of those weird games where you have 2 combo decks where they've both got stuff against each other and they end up just sort of not doing anything. It's quite fun in a weird sort of masochistic fashion, I suppose. So it looks like they didn't draw a land. Can I draw a land? I have a wear tear. That's interesting. That gives me options. Not right now, because I don't have anything to reanimate, but if I draw a black card, I can grief pitch to discard and then bring back the grief, so I can just take 2 cards out of their hand next turn. So I'm going to blow this up on their end step so they don't see it coming, and then hope to draw either a land or a black card. Reckless Impulse. Okay, so they're just trying to find some more cards. What we can do here is we can cast Wear and Tear, and that will be a massive blowout if they play the Ruby Medallion here. Okay, yes, so we get to really get them here. As long as we remember not to pass through their turn. Okay, so we're going to crack this for bad lands. We'll crack this. It's unlikely they play Magus to the Moon or anything, but you never know. Fuse. Can I do that? Fuse. Choose target artifact. Choose target enchantment. So add white, add red, add black. So this is a massive blowout there. Pretty happy about that one. We drew the Serenity, which isn't really where we wanted to be. A land would have been nice. I don't know if there's any point playing out Serenity yet. Doesn't really achieve anything. Oh, this is a funny old game. I'm going to cast as Reckless Impulse. Sure. So what does this one find them? A lane on the void they can't cast in a mountain. So they'll have the mountain. Does this let you cast it? You may play those. Yes, they can play it. It's not a cast. Oh, they got another spell though. Seething Song. Okay. Oh, so they had a Rite of Flame in hand. You're going to have me here? Is it deterministic? They've got bonus rounds. They've got 2 mana here, so they can cast their Rite of Flames again. Generate a bunch more mana. Reckless Impulse. I don't think it's right to pitch Grief there after I've already taken them off of their medallion. So they still have to worry about the fact that I have a Plains up and they've already seen Silence out of my deck. And that I didn't do anything on the turn after I blew up their leyline. I don't think they're actually going to give me any respect for it, but they might take a slightly different line with when they try and get something from their sideboard, perhaps. And just continuing to go through the motions. Like, I think they should be able to win the game here. But again, there is a fail rate to this deck, so we kind of have to hope that they hit it. Okay, so they're manamorphosing into leyline. Interesting. That is an interesting one to me. I guess if they considered it free for what they're doing, because they have so much mana, then sure. I guess they're not sure if they're going to hit the fail rate of their deck, perhaps, so they're just trying to... oh wow, many bonus rounds. So if they cast any spell now, they get lots of versions of it. So we got here, Seething Song. Sure, so they're going to have A lot of mana. They have all the mana in the world. They just need to find the payoff. How many redraws do we have? It's got Manamorphoses. Jessica's Will's a good one. So that sees them a whole bunch of cards. Let's see. So they get the Bergie, so they can use that to discard cards and draw more cards. Show me. Okay, there's a Burning Wish there, so they should be able to just Grape Shot me out from here. I'm not going to make them go through it. That was an unfortunate one. They mulliganed to Oblivion. I had to discard. I just couldn't hit a land, or the cards I boarded in early enough so that I could unmask myself. Which is unfortunate. We're into round 3, and I'm on the play, and as you can see, my deck has decided that I'm not allowed to draw any lands. I guess we're going to mulligan again. This deck has the exact same amount of lands as a regular Reanimator deck. Pretty much the same mana costs as well. But again, we can't keep this one. We don't have any way of reanimating. This one looks fine. So if we put back these two, we can entomb. And then we have 2 goes at trying to do it. Now the question here is if I cast it during my turn or their turn. So I'm going to do it in their upkeep, I think. That way I dodge Force of Negation on the Entomb, which is the most important one to resolve, and they don't have ability to cast a Daze. Okay, so that resolves. We're going to put Griselbrand into the graveyard. Now we can see what sort of deck we're playing against and what the thing we have to watch out for. So they're a Yorion deck, which usually means Death and Taxes, but there's a lot of blue piles as well. The reason why I play it there is because it could be one of the blue piles. Soul Guide Lantern. Unbelievable. It's just going to be one of those leagues, is it? Jesus. The Singleton Soul Guide Lantern, their 80 card deck, in their opening hand against the Reanimator player. I played around one thing, got hit by another. What a sad day it is. Sure, why not? Unbelievable. That's the thing with Magic. There's so many things to play around. You play around the thing that you're expecting, and something else comes and bites you. Like some of the Yorion Death and Taxes aren't even running Soul Guide Lantern in the main because they're not running as a saga. But here we are. Oh yeah. Must be one of the unluckiest leaguers around today. I'm not having a great day of it. So we have this Badlands, which plays straight out into Wasteland, which isn't great. So we keep this in our hand for now. Oh dear, oh dear. Sure, that's a real card. It's got one of the runes protecting it. Faithless Looting. So now we will play the Badlands. If we activate it. Problem is they still have a Soul Guide Lantern, so I think we're just dead here, to be honest. So we cast this and pay 1. So this is an interesting one. So what we could do is we could play around the Soul Guide Lantern using but the problem is the unmask. I think we just have to play through it and hope that we can eventually get by. So this lets us put something in the graveyard as well. So I think we bin these two. So the problem is they can just wait until I try and reanimate. I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to win this now. Which I've been saying a lot at the moment, which is unfortunate. I should go back to playing even more fringe decks because they seem to do better. Things like Helm's Deep. But oh well, maybe it's just because it's got such a great name. Anyway, so we're going to take some more draw steps. We can still cast things like Grief. So we play this out because it's just a basic. Okay, so we're going to use this to... I'm not expecting this to resolve. I'm expecting the graveyard to get removed. And yes, we have to pay one, don't we? So I'm expecting this to get removed via the Soulguide Lantern. That's what it's there for. And then we have to, next turn, we flash back the Faithless Looting and try again. Have they got a main deck Containment Priest as well? That would be interesting. Let's have a look. Spirit of the Labyrinth. Okay. Are they not just going to use their Soulguide Lantern here? Huh, they didn't use their Soulguide Lantern. That's very strange to me. Okay, I don't know how to feel about that. So they've got 2 cards in hand. They must have an answer for this of not using their Soulguide Lantern. I don't think we want to do this in case... Oh, I don't know. If they've got a Swords to Plowshare, I can't unmask it anyway, so I may as well save this in case I need to unmask myself. And it keeps more cards in hand for the purposes of Faithless Looting. I don't know why they didn't Soulguide Lantern. That seems very odd to me. I'm not really sure what their strategy here is. Like Flicker Wisping this is not great for them. Like it stops them being able to attack. It stops them being able to worry about blocks. So maybe they think they can race that. But it's a Lightning Helix to the face every turn. So it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Are you just going to try and race it with a Shadow Spear? Interesting. Oh, they have a Solitude. Sure. So I'm going to lose my guy. And then gain 6. I still don't know why they didn't Soulguide Lantern there. That does seem odd to me. I've only got 2 cards in hand. I'm not sure what they were afraid of. So I guess this turn we're going to... well, if we Exhume, they get their guy back. So Exhuming doesn't feel great. Exhume buys me, what, 6 life. So that puts me on 15, but I'm taking 5, 10, 15 there, plus the Solitude. Yeah, so I think I'm just dead there. Sure, played around it being potentially a blue pile, and they had their Singleton. There's not really much to say about that, is there? Now the problem with this deck is that it can have Containment Priest as well. So basically, there's a whole bunch of options we have here. Being able to blow up potentially Soulguide Lanterns and things here. I think the Serenities will probably just be better because it's going to clip a load of the other stuff. I think we need some amount of Swords to Plowshares because we can't beat Containment Priest. So I think we're boarding out the lootings here, and then we're trimming on some of these things. Exhume is very weak here. In fact, Exhume is so weak I just don't even want it, I don't think. Because they can just Solitude and just absolutely ruin me. So I think this is the configuration we're going for. We're down quite a few black cards for the purposes of unmasking Grief, but I think it's okay. I don't think we're a sneak attack deck today. We don't actually need the Children of Corliss Tendrils of Agony plan against D&T, in my opinion. So we could probably bring back in an Exhume and Faith is Looting. Or do we just want 2 Exhumes? Maybe we just want 2 Exhumes just so we can try and go fast. Sure. So this is my opening hand. We have an Entomb, we have an Exhume, we have a Reanimate. I think we have to keep this one. They've mulliganed to 5 cards, which gives me the impression that they maybe have ley lines in their deck. We do have 4 Serenities. It's unusual to see ley lines in Death and Taxes, but again, Reanimator is so prevalent across all of Modo at the moment that I think people are just... Okay, they didn't play it. Interesting. Well, I'm not going to play into Soul Guide Lantern again. No, my luck, they'll probably have it. Okay, so start on Urza Saga to find the Soul Guide Lantern. I see. On Ether Vial, yep. Sure. I'll crack this. And we'll get Swamp because they play a lot of things. This can get us the... So we're going to cast this. We're going to cast this. I'm going to get the Archon because they are a Caracas deck. I just don't want to get hit by the Caracas. I would like an Archon of Cruelty into play, please. A pain cost. So I have a Surgical Extraction. Okay. Sure. I guess that's fine. So I played the Entomb in case they wanted to, the Exhume in case they Solituded and got Solitude in play. It's unlikely, but it's a possibility. Okay, so we have a Serenity which can deal with a lot of their permanents, which is nice, including the Soul Guide Lantern. So I'm just going to play these out, and we're going to pass a turn, and we're going to see what joys and delights our opponent has for us. At the end of the day, someone's got to lose every game of Magic, right? So let's have a look. Thalia. Sure, that's fine. That doesn't bother me too much. I've got a 3rd mana source here. I also have the answer for it here. So we sacrifice this for a Scrubland. We sacrifice this. I think we're going to get a Swamp just for the purposes of Wasteland. I don't want to lose my lands here. So we're going to cast this. So we're going to tap for white and black and pay 1. And we've got a Serenity. So wherever they get off of the Urza Saga is going to get blown up. And I'm going to hit their Ether Vial as well. Obviously, they could have a the 3/1 guy that blows up, that disenchants Cathar of some description. It's got Flash. So that's certainly a possibility they can have here. They also can be playing Containment Priest in their deck, which is... Okay, so they didn't even fetch anything because they knew that I have the Serenity. Sure. So now we wait, I guess. We can source the Plowshare as this creature. I think we do it now for the purposes of Caracas. We don't want them to have a recurring threat. They can, because they obviously mulligan quite hard for a graveyard hit, as people do. Okay, so we've got 3 mana here, 4, 5. So we're part of the way towards Griselbrand, and we've also seen a Dark Ritual, so they are in the deck, which is nice to know. Well, my opponent drew a land, which is good for them, not so great for me, but there we go. Do they have a play? Sure, Spirit of the Labyrinth. Another reason why the Archon is more appealing right now. Okay, so we have a Shallow Grave as well. We might have the time to just draw up and discard. But it's not looking incredible. But again, it only takes 1 card to completely change how this hand looks. But we're taking 3 a turn. So we're already down to 12. And they've got follow-up play of a Thalia, which isn't too big a deal given that I have the Dark Ritual, which can give me +1 mana and still, and I have 3 lands. Swords to Plowshares. This is an interesting one. I think we probably just get rid of the 3 one because that represents the biggest clock. So this buys me quite a few more turns, which is hopefully what I need. Mother of Runes, sure. So I have 1 card in hand. Okay, so drew a Scrubland. How does the Scrubland change what I'm doing here? If I play it, let's have 5 mana, which is not really enough to do anything. I think we just have to hold cards and hope that we can discard Griselbrand if it comes to it. So we've got 2 more turns and we can take 6 more damage and then get a Griselbrand into play. We can Shallow Grave it into play if we need to in the combat step. Another threat, a Flicker Wisp. So this represents quite a lot more damage. This is 3, 4, 5, 6. So this gives me 1 more turn. So I won't be able to do my draw discard plan. So I think I'm probably just going to get ruined here. Let me think. 3. So I get 1 more draw step. So I think we have to do the draw discard plan so we can put the Griselbrand into play with Shallow Grave to block to stay alive. Unfortunately, Shallow Grave exiles the creature once it dies. Okay, so they're only being attacked for... there's also the fact that if they're not attacking with the Mother of Runes, it means they can use the Mother of Runes to stop the damage. How does this impact things? It doesn't stop my desperation play, but the Mother of Runes probably does that enough. They have 1 card in hand. So if we play Badlands, if we unmask myself, that doesn't do it because I can only play 1 spell this turn. But we can unmask myself and then Shallow Grave. So we're going to target me, pay 1, and we're going to exile this black card from my hand. Unfortunately, it means the trap is something that they can walk into. I probably shouldn't have played the land here. Should have just discarded and gone for the desperation play. But I don't think they were going to attack with Mother Runes anyway. But at least now there is a possibility. They probably have a Surgical Extraction in hand. That's the sort of day it's been, I'm afraid. If this was an Arcan in my graveyard, it would have been better, unfortunately. They did have a Surgical Extraction. Oh my lord. That is quite an unfortunate round, that one. I think we will concede. Jesus. Okay, let's go on to another one and see if we can get some sort of victory on the go. Okay, we're into the next round, and this is my opening hand. It's certainly got some issues to it. I could chance a Faithless Looting into something useful, but I'm relying on the top 2 cards of my deck to be mana sources, I think, there, which isn't really worth doing, so I'm going to mulligan. Okay, so this has a turn 1 Griselbrand, so we can actually keep this hand. It's not turn 1 Griselbrand with protection, though. but sometimes you don't have everything. Well, that resolved, which is interesting to me. They're not a blue deck if they didn't count the Entomb. I think we pay 7 just so we can get a grief here. Okay. They didn't want me to see their hand with the grief. Sure. Okay. That was just a pretty normal sort of hand there for the old Reanimator. That's what everyone against you does on Magic Online. That's not really what happens. But they didn't counter any spells. So it's hard to say. The Serenities are just a nice hedge, which I think we probably should be doing. I have no idea if we need the Storm combo or not, but it's fun, and we're kind of playing for fun these days. Considering how this league's been going, we're not really going for anything other than fun. Let's have a look. We can probably trim some bits and pieces. So we'll probably trim like these and play like this, and then see if we need the storm stuff on the way back round. Actually, let's put the Shadow Grave in and take an Exhume out. That seems better to me. Sure, why not? Submit. So this is my opening hand. It has the ability to put a Griselbrand in the graveyard and dig a little bit, which I think is probably fine because I can also have a little bit of disruption. So I think I'm going to keep this hand. It's not a blisteringly fast one, but it's got a lot of resources I like. Let's press the keep button. Obviously, it also gives me the ability to draw into Reanimate on turn 1 with backup. So if I draw into Reanimate off of the Faithless Looting or off of my draw step, then I can do it with protection. They did not start with a Leyline in play, so that's something. Things start finally looking up. A Wasteland, sure. A Relic of Progenitus. Okay, that's to be expected, unfortunately. Okay, so we're looking for those Serenities. Relic is an unusual one. You don't see a lot of Relics. There's so many decks are using their graveyards now. So what we can do with the Relic is we can try and get round it using a Shadow Grave. I think we're going to cast the Petal. I think we don't want to crack this because of the Wasteland. I think we're actually better off just cracking this to do the Faithless Looting. Let's see what we turn up with. So we have a lot of unmasks here. I don't know if I'm really in the market for an unmask. I think we can get rid of one unmask. Do we need to get rid of... I think we can probably just get rid of both of these unmasks. I don't really want to get rid of the Griselbrand yet. I want to try and sneak it through using a Shadow Grave. The other option we can do here is unmask and try and reanimate something from their hand. But we don't know what they're playing. So what would I rather have in my graveyard? I think we will do it like this and get the grief in the graveyard. That's another thing that we can potentially Shadow Grave if it comes down to it. Okay, Bone Crusher Giant, Fiery Confluence. I guess we take the thing that can win them the game. Eventually, obviously. This also gives us something that we can reanimate, but we know that they have resources to kill it. Do I think a turn 1 4/3 is any good? No, because they have the Relic of Progenitus, so they can just relic it themselves, which is unfortunate. So I assume they're going to target me with their relic. They should be targeting me every turn. Just keep my graveyard slimmed down, so they might not have to pop it. Sure. So if this is a prison deck, Serenity will be very good, and the Fiery Confluence doesn't interact with it. Okay, so there's the mountain we know about. One mystery card in the opponent's hand, and back to me. Okay, so we have the Serenity. We just need a mana source. Now the downside of this is that we don't have, we have to fetch non-basics to do this. Serenity should also be pretty good against a mono red deck, since they're most likely going to be playing things like Blood Moon and just general prison effects. And they also will struggle to interact with the Serenity. A land, please. We found land. Okay, so it's a bit annoying because I need to Faithless Looting next turn. So if we get a Badlands and a Badlands and a Scrubland, we give them the choice of which one to hit. So this gives my opponent a chance to misplay. This means that they're definitely going to hit the white source. I think we have to give our opponent a chance to misplay here. Scotland. White, red, cast Serenity. So they have an opportunity to hit the wrong card. So if they're smart, they'll hit the Badlands because they'll know that I have Faithless Looting in my deck, and that's a way that can enable me to do things. Okay, so now they're just straight up exiling all graveyards. If they don't wasteland me, then... Okay, so they hit the right one. So we need to hit a red source. So that's Fetch Land or Lotus Petal or the bad land that's still in the deck. Our opponent obviously doesn't have anything going on though. They've got 4 drops in hand and 1 land. It's just not exactly a great position to be in. So the Serenity has done what it needed to do. So we can Grief Reanimate, but then if they hit 4 mana, then definitely fine. If they hit a Wasteland, then I'm in trouble. So I think we are just going to Grief Reanimate. This means we can take out both the answers in their hand that we know they have to the Grief. Okay, so they have a Lightning Bolt that they've just used on the Grief right now. That is very strange to me. So they have another Lightning Bolt, so we can take the Lightning Bolt. And then we have the Ensnaring Bridge or the Chandra that I think we probably take here. So we take the Lightning Bolt. I don't know why they did that. It seemed like a misplay to me. We're going to cast this. Bring back the Grief. So if we take the Ensnaring Bridge, we're basically leaving them with 3 4-drops in hand. So they've got Chandra and 2 Fiery Confluence. So we're basically banking on them to not have lands for a couple of... Every land drop they miss puts me massively ahead. And they've already used 2 Lightning Bolts. If they hadn't have used their Lightning Bolt, then I wouldn't have been able to... we have a Reanimate in case this guy dies. We have a creature that we can attack with. It's not the quickest clock, but 7 turns is 7 turns, isn't it? Our opponent possibly doesn't have a land since they're on their doorstep there. Sure. Okay, excellent. My opponent has not hit any lands. Given how the league's gone already, I'll take my win so I can get them. I'm going to play this out. I'm not going to use this because I won't. I would like another card first. I don't think it's imperative, judging by the stage of where we are now. I want to have at least one card that is worth pitching. And we don't want to activate this because you want to keep mana available. Okay, a Valakut. Okay, this is some sort of brew, I guess. They're a long way off of this doing anything. Valakut. In the year of our Lord, 2022. I think now is a fine time to go. Let's see what we have here. I'm going to cast this. So they don't have a creature card in their graveyard. Do I care about the Dark Ritual? I don't think so. It does let me hard cast the Grief though. But I think we keep the land because the land is just going to be more useful overall. Get rid of the Reanimate. Sure. Let me attack with this guy. I'll draw another lightning bolt. They have. Okay. I've gone to my face. That's interesting. I think I'll play this out because we might want to flashback the Faith is Looting later anyway. I'm not going to get Hidetsugu's second right, am I? I guess I can crack the marsh flats to stop that. Blood Moon. Okay, so we crack this in response. We need to get a basic swamp. Sure, so there's the Blood Moon that we expected. The Blood Moon Valakut combo is... I'm not entirely sure what's in my opponent's deck. It looks interesting. Let's go to my turn. So we can hard cast the Grief that we draw, which will increase our clock slightly. We'll keep the Alert Spell in hand since it doesn't matter when we cast it. I guess it could be a Trinisphere deck, so maybe I should be playing it first. Layla. What does this do? Is this going to attack me? Okay. So this lets them play cards from the top of their library. The Bone Crusher Giant. How long can they play it? You may play that card this turn. Okay, so that's not going to do anything this turn. So I don't have to worry about that. Sure. Okay. Put me to 6. I think we're going to cast this with flashback. So what do we find? We found a Grief and a Shallow Grave. So if we discard the Grief and the Shallow Grave, we can Scrubland, Lotus Petal, Exhume. And they don't have any creature cards in their graveyard. No. Good. Okay. This gets me black mana. And then we cast this. I get the Grief. I get to see their hand. And I can work out what I'm supposed to be doing here. So they have 2 Fiery Confluences. Well, they're both lethal anyway, so there's no point taking them. So I think we attack with the Grief here. So they did a pretty good job at this game, actually, considering they have had a bad time here. Let's see. So this I can block if I need to. If they have a 4th land, and I'm dead anyway, so I don't need to block this. Let's see. This attacks, I guess we see what they draw. If they draw a burn spell, what do they draw? A Magus of the Moon. So that can't block because my guys have got Menace. So I think we just take the 4 here. Or they're just playing the Magus of the Moon. Sure. My creatures have Menace. We're going to actually pull out a win. Not through anything big and broken, but just attacking with Griefs. Attack with all creatures. I guess I could have Fury as well, which would ruin my day. But again, I can't be that by the way I've been playing around. Nope, Menace. Needs 2 creatures. I don't think they saw the Menace there. Okay, so we won that round with a horrible sort of Grief beatdown plan. Alright, I think we've got one more round left, so let's see if we can salvage a few play points from it, shall we? Okay, so in the final round, and I won the die roll. It can happen. So we have a turn 2 Griselbrand. Turn 2 Griselbrand sounds good, and we have no ability to protect it, unfortunately. So we could go slightly slower and Faith is Looting. We're definitely keeping this hand, but we could Faith is Looting first, because then we can do it all on the next turn, possibly with protection. So I think I like that play. Because we don't really need white mana on the first turn. We're going to just go and get a basic swamp. No, we need the mountain though, don't we? This is the problem. Okay. They're mulliganing to 6 cards. To 5 cards. Okay, so this is giving me the impression that there's some sort of broken deck. So I think I want to Faith is Looting and try and hit Grief. So I want to hit a black card for grief here. So we're going to get the Badlands. Make red. Cast this. We did not hit anything for grief, unfortunately. So we can try and spin again with a Lotus Petal. I don't like the way they went to 5 cards, to be honest. I think we can definitely get rid of 1 land. Is it the Lotus Petal or is it the other Faithless Looting? If we're just going to let them have a turn on 5 cards. I don't know if we can do that. Okay, I'm going to go with the Marsh Rats, and because they mulligan so aggressively, I'm going to go again with the Faithless Looting. Okay, so this is a little bit interesting. So we don't actually need cards in my graveyard. So if we pitch the Emrakul and the Dark Ritual, we're back to exactly where we started off. So I haven't really achieved anything here, have I? Kind of needed this to be a different sort of fatty. I just punked myself here. Okay, I think we just get rid of these 2 now. We shuffle everything back in. They're not going to have a clue what's going on. I definitely shouldn't have cast a second Faithless Looting. That was a misplay. I was just scared of my opponent's mull to 5 because it felt like they were trying to hit into something specific. Okay. Interesting. Once upon a time. Like, we have Griselbrand next turn. Or we can play the Archon if they play a creature that is particularly scary. Or if they play a white source that makes me think they have. Okay. This should probably just be a Griselbrand, I think. We might as well add the black here. So we're going to cast Dark Ritual. Then we're going to cast Entomb. We're going to cast put Griselbrand in there. Cast Reanimate, targeting Griselbrand. We're going to draw a bunch of cards. Now what? I think we cast Unmask, targeting them. We'll exile this Reanimate. Okay, so what does this hand do of theirs? They can play a Birchlaw Rangers, which is going to be their mana engine. I think getting rid of the 1-drop is the correct play here, the 1-drop creature. So we have this additional 1 mana that we're not doing anything with. But that's fine, I guess. We've already played land, didn't we? Oh no, we didn't play land, did we? Interesting. I could have exhumed here, but obviously there's no creatures. Okay, so now we pass the turn, and I don't suspect they're going to have a great deal they can do here. Okay, so they drew a land off the top. Elvish Visionary, sure. So it'd be nice one time to be able to do the Emrakul combo here. So if I draw a Faithless Looting and that draws into Shadowgrave, that'd be nice. Be worth a go. I don't think they're going to attack with their Nettle Sentinel. I'd like to at least do it once on this stream, but we'll see. So that wasn't the one. So we attack here. I think that's probably fine. Okay, they're just going to let me have it. So I don't think I actually want to draw cards this turn, unfortunately. It depends, because if I draw a brick, then we don't know what's in store for me next turn, because they might be able to natural order. It wouldn't have to be very big in order to kill me. They could just play a Cradle and just get me if I did that play. But anyway, they've they've conceded, so we can move on to the next one. So what I'm mainly playing against in this one is the Endurance. Again, it's possible they have ley lines, which is annoying because I kind of have to do something about that. They do have the ley lines. Yeah, so I think these play around ley line and Endurance a bit. So I think we probably want these in. The combo is actually quite good here because they are quite fast deck. So I think having access to being able to just win on the spot is quite nice. The sneak attack's quite expensive, I know, but needs must. The Exhume seems bad here. The Shadow Grave is sort of part of our combo there. We can bring in a Serenity or a Wear Tear for hedging purposes, which I don't hate. The Wear Tear is slightly cheaper to deal with the ley line if they have one, so I think that's probably where we want to be. Swords to Plowshares are options, but again, they're sort of slowing us down, and none of their creatures actually mess with our graveyard or playing things in the graveyard apart from when they come into play, like Endurance. So Swords to Plowshares doesn't stop that. So I think this is probably about where we're at, and we're going to try this one. So this is a turn 1 combo hand if I don't have any interaction. Alternatively, I can wait a couple of turns and unmask them to make sure they don't have any interaction first, and hopefully try and find another way of putting the Griselbrand in. I think we have to keep this. It makes a turn 1 attacking Griselbrand. And what's interesting about my hand is that the this is interesting, is that the Shallow Grave plan goes around Endurance, so we need multiple Endurances. So what I can do here is I can play this in the Lotus Petal. I can unmask myself using Dark Ritual, and then I can hold up for a turn to reanimate, or I could hold back until next turn and do it all in one turn. So they don't have any opportunity to cast the Endurance. I like that a bit more. Yeah, so next turn we unmask targeting me, pitching the Dark Ritual. Then we cast Reanimate on Griselbrand. If they Endurance, we Shadow Grave in response and then attack them with Griselbrand and draw 14 cards. That seems good. I like that plan. They didn't start off with the Elvish Reclaimer, so they can't have a Karakas to tutor for either. Okay, just an Elvish Visionary, just a fair Visionary. Sure. So another reason why I like this Shadow Grave is because it lets you play around single card graveyard hate pieces like Soul Guide Lantern or Tormod's Crypt, now Spellbomb, Endurance, stuff like that. So we've got 5 cards. The chance of having double Endurance is quite low. I think they play about 3 of them usually. Okay. So we play out the Badlands. What do we want to pitch to the Unmask? I think it's probably best just to... I think we pitch the Dark Ritual as we originally planned. Choose target player, me. Exile a black card from my hand. This. So they've seen what I've got in my hand now. So they know if they have an Endurance, it's not enough. Cast this target in Griselbrand. They have the Endurance. So I will add black and add black and cast Shadow Grave. Do they have another Endurance? They do not. They can shuffle those cards in. And my Reanimate will fizzle. And then we can draw some cards. So what do we have here? We can unmask them. Yeah, I think we unmask them. And we can pitch the Reanimator. I don't think we need another Reanimator. Oh, that was possibly a mistake, wasn't it? We can get rid of the Green Sun Zenith. Sure. I think we can draw another 7 cards here. Okay, so we have the Lotus Petal now. What's the best play we can achieve here? We can Grief, take their other card. I think we're going to combat first. We can combat. I'd like to attack. I'm going to pitch this. We'll get rid of one of these Arcane of Cruelties. We're not going to need both of them. Get rid of the Visionary. So that leaves him with just Dryad Arbors in hand, just a Dryad Arbor in hand. And this dies. So we have this, which can we draw 7 more cards, I think. Okay, they're just going to concede because I've got a wealth of riches. Okay, so that was the end of that league. Let's have a look at the deck again. Okay, so this is the list we played. So there was a game where the Tendrils of Agony Children of Corliss package was going to win me the game that turn, but we didn't get that far because our opponent scooped. We never got to Emrakul the Aeon's Torn Shadowgrave, which is usually something that happens when you have the Entomb. I think the issue with that is it's quite rare that the Emrakul is going to be better than a Griselbrand. But I think having the option to be able to strip your opponent of all their permanents with a big one-shot is quite good. But I think Archon of Cruelty does a very, very similar thing, but gives you more resources. So I don't think the Emrakul plan is actually worth playing, now I think about it. The Shadowgrave was quite good in that last game. We managed to beat Graveyard Hate because we were playing Shadowgrave. So having a deck that is slightly more resilient to Graveyard Hate because of the Shadowgraves was nice. I had a lot of mana problems in this league. Obviously, it's a 14 land deck with 4 Lotus Petals, so you shouldn't be getting huge amounts of mana anyway, but I really struggled to cast a lot of spells, which made me think that the Sneak Attack Cyborg plan is just not really viable without putting in some more lands. So if I could put in like a few, like 3 Ancient Tombs to go with it and just pivot into the Sneak Attack plan maybe. But if I'm cutting the Emrakul, maybe the Sneak Attack plan isn't worth playing anyway. If you're not playing the Emrakul plan, why are you playing this particular brand of Reanimator and not just playing the Reanimator that happens to have these 2 cards in, but the rest of it is more or less the same? So it's tricky. I think the Shadowgrave is quite good. I don't like Animate Dead that much at the moment, but what it does is it lets you play off of your opponent's graveyard. So it gives you a different way of playing around Graveyard Hate. So that one lets you reanimate their creatures, whereas Shadowgrave lets you get around an Endurance or a single hit to your graveyard type card. Sideboard wise, I don't think the Swords to Plowshares are particularly good. They came in a matchup where they had lots of creatures that could get me, but I think something like Massacre would probably just be better here and be able to hit multiple things. Like the Wear Tear Serenity package is pretty standard. I don't think there's any problem with that. The Silence was actually quite good, but that matchup we just happened to draw dead for quite a lot of turns. Overall, I think my impression of the deck is that it's not as competitive as other Reanimator decks. And like, yes, you can live the dream with the Reanimate Emrakul, but I don't think that's worth doing at the end of the day. Shadowgrave, on the other hand, for Griselbrand, proved to be quite powerful, allowing you to draw 21 cards in a turn, which usually means you can set up another creature and more discards, so you basically win the game on the spot. But how often does Griselbrand not win the game on the spot anyway? So maybe it's just a little bit too cute. I'm really sorry that I didn't get to do the Emrakul Shadowgrave plan, but sometimes it just doesn't work. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this bit of a mess, but it was relatively fun at times. We had some interesting games, especially the ones that ended up just beat down and things like that. Anyway, please like and subscribe. I'm going to be putting out a lot more Legacy content going forward. I might even play the deck that I'm sort of known for playing, that I've been playing for years on stream, so we can maybe get a slightly better record than playing some of these silly fun decks. All right. Well, thank you very much for watching me, and take care of yourselves. Goodbye.